Let's look at weather. Weather is very interesting because weather is an abiotic part that's very important for plants because plants have to have proper weather to grow. Sometimes the weather isn't adequate or isn't proper for them. We've got three things we need to look at: lightning, hail, and wind. We're going to skip the snow because, we're living down in the south. The snow isn't that much of a problem. Normally the snow comes in. It's related more to the cold. We've already talked about temperature. Lightning. I love this picture. This is from NOAA. You can see this is multiple cloud to ground and cloud to cloud lightning. It's really fairly spectacular. The temperatures on the inside in here get up to 1,000,000 degrees Fahrenheit. They generate all sorts of stuff, such as oxides of nitrogen, which can be used as a type of fertilizer. But by the same token, if you get in the way of this or a plant gets in the way of this, it does severe damage. These are a group of trees. This was in the Amazon. They had planted these trees. They were going to grow them into pulpwood. One of the problems they found is that they were somewhat sensitive to lightning strike. In this area, it was very common to have lightning strikes. You would find an area where there would be 10 or 15 trees in a circular patch that had just died. They'd regenerate out of the roots. It was determined that this was actually caused by lightning. As the lightning came down, it killed some of the trees, it electrocuted some of the other ones, burned up the material on the inside of the phloem, killed that part, but it came right back. This is a tree near the greenhouse that had been hit by lightning. Lightning got the canopy of it. It came down the phloem. As it came down the phloem, it shrapnelized everything. Like you can see in the center picture, it just cut everything up. It just fried it on the way down. It came all the way down the side of the trunk, jumped out into the soil. This is a very common type of occurrence to have with lightning. This sort of damage, if not checked, will progress. Right now, this tree's still alive. This is 10, 12 years after the lightning strike. It's just that the central area is beginning to try and recover. The tree may never recover from this. There's a rather large limb up on top that has been basically debarked and destroyed from this. That one's never going to regenerate itself. If we look at precipitation, when we look at it, you look at the annual average precipitation, you can see that there are certain places out on the west coast that are high, there's certain places down in the southeast that are high. One of the things you want to look at in here is you get a lot of lightning occurring in areas where you have a lot of moisture. You also get rather significant temperature differentials. The central part of the peninsula of Florida are very problematic with lightning. They estimate that down in some of these areas, you get as many as 50 to 60 lightning strikes per square mile per year. That is absolutely a phenomenal amount. In the Texas area, where they aren't getting that much moisture in here, what you find is that lightning strikes on dry grass can actually start fires. That was one of the ways that you would get forest fires. If you look out in California in the dry areas, lightning strikes often start fires. Lightning is a very interesting thing that is associated with precipitation. This is a freezing precipitation. This is in New Jersey. This is what you call freezing rain. You can see how it's coming down. It freezes on everything. This can be very problematic for plants. If the plant is not properly wintered off, it will end up dying. This will be very problematic. This is snow, even though it's only a light dusting of snow on a deck. You can see how this could be problematic for plants depending on where it's at. This is hail. That's an adult hand picking up hailstones that fell out of the sky onto a piece of property. That is really very problematic because these are golf ball sized pieces of hail. If they're golf ball sized, they weigh a couple of ounces, which means when they're falling out of the sky, they can do considerable damage when they hit the ground or if they bounce around off of your car. One of the true beauties you get with precipitation is rainbows. This is a rather unique one because it stretches from one end of the horizon to the other. This is hail damage on cabbage. You can see how this particular cabbage plant looks like it's been beat up. There is a hole over on the right-hand side where the hailstone went right through it. You can't find the hail anymore because the temperature warmed up and the hail melted. The outer part of the plant was absolutely shredded. When we deal with wind, we often talk about a boundary layer. If you've got a surface, on that surface there is no movement. You have got an area where the air is still. The amount of still air depends upon the velocity of the wind. This boundary layer can get to be fairly thick. If you have fog, fog only occurs when the wind speed is next to zero. With fog, you have virtually no wind, which means your boundary layer can be 30, 40 feet deep. As wind speed increases, your boundary layer decreases. This becomes important for gas exchange. The same way you have gas exchange inside of the plant, you have heat exchange. You have temperature being brought down. If you have too much wind, you get desiccation of the plant. All of these become important when we look at the boundary layer. The higher the speed, the thinner the layer. If you go and watch an airplane wing when it's taking off, you can actually see the material getting closer and closer to the wing, which means your boundary layer is getting thinner. It provides for mixing of air. This is a picture of the Gulf of Mexico during a storm. You can see how angry it is. All of this wave action is because of wind, which means the boundary layer in this particular case is really very thin. When we look at the parameters of weather as far as the types of problems that they create on plants, we see a lot of different types of problems in there.